Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Music, Spirit and Accountability with Jay, Hoad and Michael Cooper. Mr. Michael Cooper is away today. He's on his mystery trip around the world, I think on his way to Thailand for a coaching call. And I'm so lucky to be here today with Jessica And, who's the founder of Artemisia Mystery School, I'll say that correctly, and just an incredible human being. We're speaking about self-sabotage and some really juicy stuff today. Super excited to have you here, Jess. How are you feeling today?
I'm so glad to be here, Joe. I love our chats, so looking forward to diving into this one.
Likewise, and this podcast was birthed from exciting chats and just that energy where your skin's kind of tingling and you got those goosebumps. So that's why we're here today, and super excited to get into this with you. So, what's in the current for you? Self sabotage. What do you mean when you say self sabotage? And we spoke before about like some like covert energy kind of vibes. So, what's coming up for you around that?
It's interesting because like when we were dropping in before, we were talking about that idea of like music, spirit, accountability. And I was thinking about with accountability, really accountability is so much often used as the antidote to self-sabotage, right? And so one of the biggest things that has really come up for me recently is I've been in a bit of a grief portal. A very important person in my world passed away earlier this year. And what I really noticed in terms of my sabotage patterns was how much I was hiding in my work to avoid feeling the grief. So that's only really something this week that I have started to call myself into a degree of accountability around because it's so easy when you're being productive. It's like, look, I'm being productive. But it's like, and what's the cost?
When you said that, we had a chat before the podcast, and that like hit me in the chest. Like when you said that, like hiding in your work to self sabotage. I guess maybe not having to be present with other things that are going on in your life that really should well prioritize over your work. So, how does that work for you? Give me a scenario, and what's your solution on how to fix this?
So obviously mine is very like it feels quite time bound because like yes I did experience a loss, but other ways that I've seen this play out for people is avoiding conflict with their partner. It's like I know I need to have this really hard conversation with them, but I would rather be in a situation where I have a high level of control, which is often in our businesses, right? It's in our work environment. It's like I know what's expected of me here. I can have very clear parameters around what's working and not working. But when you introduce another person into that, it injects a high level of uncertainty. In my case with this grief, it's like it has brought up a lot of painful experiences from my past around when I lost my late husband. So the experience of grief has also been a real reckoning for me around parts of that experience too. So being able to see where I am hiding in a very controlled environment to avoid the uncertainty of feeling, or, in the case of the person avoiding their partner, it's like I'm hiding over here because it feels a little more secure and stable.
Can we just pause for a second there, Jess? What you just said, hiding in a controlled environment to avoid the feelings of the things that are coming up. How's that landing with you, everybody? That just hit me again in the chest. Thanks, Jess, as you were.
Yeah, it's like sometimes I do that. Sorry, just like well, bombshell and continue.
Huge, huge. Love it.
And yeah, so it's interesting if I think about what's common between the two of those things is yes, as I said, high uncertainty, but ultimately there are also gateways to deeper levels of intimacy, like intimacy
100%.
with oneself, intimacy with another. And there is often a little bit of an ego death that can accompany that. It's like things that we thought about ourselves or how we have seen ourselves before. When we're invited into spaces that call that into question, it can be a little bit scary to face off with letting go of who we thought we were. But I think in the long run, this is where growth comes from. Like growth doesn't come from, ticking the boxes every day. It's like, yes, for sure, that's like a linear growth. But like when it comes to self growth, fortification, individuation, really knowing who you are as an individual, that comes from putting yourself in situations that do make you uncomfortable. So I don't know if I've answered your question, Jay, but that's
Yeah, that
that's
was
what's
just
through to
perfect,
share.
Jess. Thank you. So, avoiding these situations by putting yourself in work is something that I can really relate to. I think as work is such an exciting place to be for us entrepreneurs as well, that are really following our heart and absolutely loving what we do, there's that side of it too, that sometimes we kind of just don't want to get out of the office. So to become an avoidant from that is an easy pattern to follow. What things are you starting to put some things in place to help you around that, and how does that look?
So it's interesting how subtle, and as you mentioned before, because my work is genuinely something that excites me. So that's where that boundary can become so blurred between like what is avoidance and what is following my path, my dreams, the things that light me up. So one of the biggest symptoms of that is when you start to feel like there is an undercurrent of burnout. Is probably one of the biggest signs of when you have been hiding in work. When you find that when you do have downtime, you spend a lot of time distracting yourself. That's another clear sign that, I'm not actually being present with what is. So for me, one of the remedies that I'm putting in place is to move to the front of my schedule that time with myself, which used to be a non-negotiable. But I've noticed as things have got busy and things have got hard, it was like the time for myself became an option. It moved further and further down the list. So where the accountability comes in is reprioritizing that time with myself.
It's so easy to do, hey, and having those check-ins, like literally, you almost need to, I think, write the check-in in your schedule, like once a month, to check in with myself. Have I crossed my boundaries and done the thing with my time blocking that I said I was not going to do this month? Because it's so funny how we sometimes don't prioritize those things. But from time to time we get motivated. I think of books like The One Thing. I just love that book so much. If you guys haven't read that, definitely check it out. It's a huge tool for putting these things in place. And every time I read that, I come out with this epic schedule of like my workout time and my family time and my breakfast time, lunchtime, dinner time. And for me, that's where I thrive. It's not for everyone. I get it, totally get it. But for me, it's where I thrive. And when I have those days scheduled out in that way, the feeling of fulfillment that I get, not just in the work sense, but in my personal development, personal life, is awesome. And what keeps tripping me up is then I'll go and add a new thing, or something will change where all of a sudden I've got to create a new position or a new thing that pops up, or a new this new coaching thing that I've signed up for recently for myself to be coached has added a whole lot of hours on my plate every week that I didn't foresee last month when I wrote out the schedule. So now, how do I plug that extra literally 10 to 20 hours a week of time into a schedule that was already filled? And there's a way to do it. It just, again, but it takes another 2 or 4 weeks to iron out all the kinks to then be like, okay, new schedule time, this is how it's going to go. So that's part of the journey too, right?
Oh, hugely. And I feel like one of the biggest bits of gold that you mentioned there too is like that monthly check-in. It's like that's only something that I feel has been like, and it's still imperfect, but it's something that I've actually started to implement with myself on a weekly and monthly basis around certain processes that are happening in my life. It's like we can have the best of intentions, but is the process working? Like, are the steps being followed? Like, if you're not reviewing the process, how do you know if it's working or not? So that monthly check-in, weekly check-in, whatever it looks like, it's so vital to actually have the harvest of what's occurring.
I'm literally adding it to my team's meeting schedule. I'm putting that in the monthly meeting now to look at that schedule rejigging as a thing. Thanks, Jess. That's a golden download. I've spoken to it before on this podcast, and I'll just say it again to guys out there. The thing with this scheduling, I always think as an entrepreneur too, we've got the two scheduling priorities. There's the management mind and schedule, and then there's the creative mind and schedule. So for those of you that haven't heard me say it before, as management mind, you can have 30-minute meetings or 15 minutes meetings back to back pretty much all day and be totally in flow and sweet. Creative mind's the opposite. You've got basically two shifts maximum, which is morning and afternoon. And if any of that management stuff gets in the way, for instance, if I book a student or a coaching call halfway through my morning, it pretty much screws my whole creative flow of that one massive creative session. It really does. And so if anyone that's looking to be in creative mode, which I consider dropping into your heart about what your purpose is, what your mission is, what your creative flow is, what your values are, all these sorts of things, and then let alone creating new projects, creating new businesses, creating new courses, or creating images, creating social media content, whatever that is, that's not management mind to me. That's creative mind. And if I'm going to be really efficient with my time and get the most done, I will chunk out a whole morning or a whole afternoon and just focus on that one thing and try and get it in flow. And literally, turning off the emails, turning off the social media, everything else, saying no to any clients within that time frame, and then just loading up the other management time. And so my schedule is becoming tighter and tighter with where I'm allowing those things to happen. And that's been a massive game changer over the last few years with how I've thrived to create so many projects and so much content and so much, so many courses and all the things, secret weapons there.
Yeah, and it's so true. Like, I love the way that you've articulated it around the management mind and the creative mind. It's like it is. It's very much left brain, right? So, and again, coming back to those pieces around accountability, like when it comes to managing your own schedule, particularly when you are in business, like it's so easy to just say yes to things. It's like sometimes the accountability is to yourself and the schedule, right? It's like, I know that this is what's the one thing that's going to move everything forward today. And yes, I could take that meeting that could be the big opportunity, but is it the thing that I'm willing to sacrifice that integrity with myself for?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm a huge fan. Anyone that knows me is, I often get complimented on my ability to say no to things and to disassociate with things for periods of time. I remember even as a kid, like being when I was started university when I was like 13 years old, which is kind of crazy. I would be practicing. I'd get up at 4 a.m. and practice my double bass, like shredding from 4 a.m. till 6 a.m., 6:30, and then I'd go and do what I did and then go to university. I'd be at uni by 8:30 and all my other buddies would be out, 13. I was hanging out with kind of 18 and 19-year-olds at the time because I was the musician kid, and all the other guys would be out partying, and that, as 15, 16 rolled on, that happened. I'd be saying no to the partying often or hanging out because I had to get up at 4 a.m. And I remember all my friends are like, 15, 16, being like, why are you going to bed? It's like 8:30. And I'm like, I gotta get up and practice bass at 4 a.m. Like, they're like, why? So because I do, like, it was just my mindset. And even then I was practicing that thing of saying no to people, but again, I was doing what I loved, and that comes down to that core. Also, Jess, I just want to presence, self-sabotage is kind of a bit of a theme for today, with that saying no to these things, and then that balance of actually saying no to, let's say, our partners and our family. Like, sometimes maybe we say no to things that we should be saying yes to, and sometimes it's easy to blur that line between saying no to meetings and opportunities, like you said, and also saying no to your family and your partner. Like, how do you balance that? Because I feel like that's kind of a different conversation, and sometimes be reflected on with self-sabotage and kind of what we're speaking about with important things with our partners and stuff like that.
And I feel like this is all weaving in so perfectly. But what you mentioned before about like that weekly, monthly check-in with yourself around the systems, like how often are we consciously checking in with our partners? That's one of the things that I feel like I have to really compliment my partner on. When we first got together, we were terrific at, and we have periods where we're better at it than others, but we used to actually have a weekly check-in where we'd run light and dark feedback. So it would be 3 times this week that I felt challenged or things that made me feel uncomfortable in a relationship, as well as requests. And then we'd go through 3 pieces of feedback around where we felt supported and loved. And so it was ultimately a process of learning how we can love each other better. And now it tends to occur more in a macro cycle. Like, if I know I've got an event coming up or something that's really going to be pulling a lot of my attention, it's like having the honest conversation that I know that for this period of time, I'm going to be less available. Like, how can I make sure that your needs are still being met? It's like, what does it look like for us to have intimacy and connection during this time?
Wow, that was an epic download, Jess. So let's just quickly break that down, exactly what you said. So your weekly check-in with your partner was, you'd have the 3 things for, like, what was it, light and dark?
Yeah, light and dark. So dark is the things where you felt maybe challenged or triggered by your partner,
Yep, yep.
and what your requests were around that.
I love the request part. So could you give me an example of, like, what a request would be?
So say, for example, and I'm going to do one where Sam has given me feedback on what his requests were.
Yeah.
So I am an absolute, are we allowed to swear, Jay?
Yeah, Shit, yeah.
I'm a bit of a shit for leaving dishes. Like if I'm busy, I'll be just like, oh, I'll just quickly have lunch and then I'll wash that up later.
Okay.
So then Sam will come into the kitchen and he's very home proud. So he'll be
Yep.
like, oh, I'll do the dishes.
Yep.
And so the feedback might have been, I noticed that all week you've left dishes in the sink.
Yep.
Can you please take some time to wash the dishes?
Yep.
And so it was like, for me, it's such a minor thing because when I look at my values is productivity. I want to get back to work. So the dishes I can do at some point. But for him, like, because the state of our home is a higher priority, it's like, this makes me so uncomfortable. So for me, it's actually then factoring in. It's like, okay, lunch can't be 5 minutes. It also needs to include the 2 minutes to do the dishes.
Yep. Yep.
So that's where it's like being able to meet him in his need
Yep.
around that. And if anything, it's like it's not a bad thing for me to have some more time to pause and be present. So that's kind of how that dynamic can play out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, even just having like a set lunch period for me is just so massive. Like to be able to connect with myself and to be able to connect with my family, and to know breakfast and lunch and dinner, and still I definitely cross my boundaries on that, but I'm getting better and always working towards that. And those monthly check-ins with those changes is some real gold that you've given me today, Jess. Thank you. That's great. So on this accountability, self-sabotage, covert energy, is there anything else coming up for you that you want to share about this that feels relevant?
The other piece too, like, and this is where like my one of my biggest loves is talking about the shadow and integrating shadow.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if we look at this accountability and self-sabotage pattern, so often why the sabotage continues to run is because it's in conflict, like the desired experience. Like, so we can have this optimized schedule and then we can think to ourselves like, why is it that I'm not sticking to it? It's like it's the piece around, it's like I'm watching myself continue to break my own intentions. And sometimes that, to me, or often what occurs is that your intentions in conflict with something else that you've told yourself you can or can't be.
100%.
So sometimes it might be like, what is your relationship around being the person that says no? It's like, is it the fact that you have associated that being no means you're mean and you're not allowed to be mean?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that stuff really runs you down. It can really run down your own self-confidence as well if you keep sort of failing in that way.
Oh, hugely. And that's where it's like it starts to break. Like, one of the best metaphors I've ever heard for integrity was, it's like wheels on a bike. And so we've got the spokes around the inside of the wheel. Each time you break a commitment to yourself, it's like removing a spoke on the wheel. And so
Wow.
that's why every time we hit that same point, it's like the wheel doesn't quite work as well. And then over time, the more spokes that you break, the less you're likely to trust yourself to follow through. So a big part of where we can start building those spokes back in is through those micro commitments. It's like, as basic as it sounds, it's like, I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week. It's like, how often have you been going? 0. It's like, maybe just start with 2.
Yeah, or one.
Get there twice. If you can do that for about a month, good job. Go for 3 times. You
Oh,
know.
I love that. One that got me last year that really ran down my self confidence was the book The 5 a.m. Club, which I love, one of my favorite books. And that thing of the 5 a.m. target to get up, and I just failed every day, like pretty much 365 days in a row. And then over summer, writing out my goals for this year, I was like, you know what, I'm going to make it 6 a.m. I'm gonna make my own one. I'm going to change the name to the 6 a.m. Club, and that works a lot better for me now. I'm always working on it, but I'm kicking goals a lot more in the 6 a.m. Club than failing every day on the 5 a.m. Club, and it just works for me. So being able to adapt and modify to these things can change everything.
Oh, hugely. And like, we're all so different. It's like being able to see the fundamental principle and like take the gold, but then being able to apply it to yourself is like, that's a next level of wisdom. So for you to be able to say, it's like, oh, it doesn't need to be 5 a.m. It can be 6, and I can still take the principles of that and apply it.
100%, yeah. And just the confidence and the synchronicity that came out of that was huge for such a little change. So it doesn't take much. So, but yeah, loving everything you've shared there, and looking back on that, why it's not sticking. and going a bit deeper on those things and can be a game changer.
Oh, hugely. It's like that for me was so big because I was definitely someone that used to struggle to say no, particularly to people that I care about. It was like I was so determined to be there for everybody, and my big thing was the shadow for me is I can't be selfish. If I'm selfish, then I'm not lovable. So much of my behavior while I was making it about other people, it was actually about my own discomfort, not wanting to be
Yeah.
seen as selfish. So being able to have that, again, degree of self accountability to go, hey, like, what is actually playing out here? Is this really about me being there for everyone else, or is this me avoiding being uncomfortable?
So, for anyone that's struggling with accountability around these things right now, what's your one big takeaway? What's your one big boost of inspiration for anyone wanting to be more accountable and shift these parts of their life, struggling with maybe repeating the same pattern over and over?
It's hard, Jay, because there's like two things I want to say. Can I say two?
Absolutely. Two, three, whatever.
So what's the biggest takeaway? I'm like, too many. One of the things that I see play out for a lot of people is actually not being aware of their values.
Yep.
So that's also so huge because we are motivated by our values unconsciously all the time. So you can say that you want to improve money, but if money isn't one of your high values, you're still going to play out the same
Yep.
behaviors. So actually do it. There are some really terrific online tests that you can do for free. D Martini's value determination is great. Takes you through 13 questions. It takes a little bit of time, but it's time well spent to actually figure out what order of your values are currently in. And so the area of your life that you're wanting to improve or the things that are most meaningful to you ideally would be at the top of your value set because it's going to start to change the way that you think and behave naturally. The second thing that I would offer around keeping yourself accountable is like that piece you mentioned, Jay, is the making the plan, then checking that the plan is working and then adapting accordingly.
Love that.
Mm.
Mm. Yeah, and it's funny because my brain straight goes straight to get a coach. Like get a coach, get an accountability, whether a coach or an accountability partner. So that's maybe a beautiful you know difference of things there. And what you said is so important to me to understanding those values, values, your purpose, and your mission. And for the people that are a bit unsure of that, let's say getting clear on your purpose first. Like, what is your purpose? That could be, like, say for me, creating the biggest and easiest to learn online music school on the planet with the most thriving community of accountable parents. That's, say, my purpose, right? My mission is then maybe the financial side, looking at, okay, I plan to make $20 million and I'm going to do that by selling this many courses, and I'm going to do that this way. And then the values around that is for my inner circle, I feel like with the sets of values, you got sort of two views. There's your inside team, your the staff and the crew, and then you've got your values for your customers and your clients and the what become sort of family. And for me, with let's say the team, they're quite similar, but a few of, say, the values of my team is that we're kind to each other, we inspire each other, we have ethics are super important. Yeah, definitely kindness across the board. We say thank you. That's a value. We say thank you. We respond to each other quickly. That's a value. If you're not going to respond quickly as you can, within reason, of course, then that's a value. And going through those values, another one that we create leaders. We create people who can become leaders in their own fields. That's really important to me. Not having that fear of training someone and showing them all your training and secrets and tricks to be the best person that they can be within your team. But then if they choose, I like to find out, anyone that works with me, I like to find out what their dreams are, what their purpose is, what their mission is. And that could be to have a career with Autism Music Australia, or it could be to be a carpenter that makes medicine drum hand pieces that make medicine drums look fancier, or whatever it is. And I'm like, great, I'm going to, along your journey with Autism Music Australia, I'm going to do my best to give you all the tools to complement your carpentry making and knowledge of all those things, so you can maybe then go on and leave us and succeed and flourish as a leader in your new field that your purpose and your mission is. All those things are so important. And then that those values for your customers, like exceptional service, responding quickly, creating a family environment, a community that's supportive and kind. That's all values. So just anyone that wasn't sure on, purpose, mission, and values, there's a bit more clarity around those three different things too.
Oh, hugely. And that's, it's something that I think with business organization, we've really landed on a lot of how to create a framework that helps people, regardless of department, regardless of position, really come into alignment with a larger vision. Like what
Yes.
you mentioned, like the purpose, mission, and the values. And yet so many people for their personal lives miss it. It's like, what are your purpose, mission, and values? Like, what are you actually here to achieve in this lifetime? So,
Yeah.
what are you actually moving towards? And so, there's a reason those structures are implemented in a business organization. They work. It's like it's the same way that we can apply that leadership to ourselves for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And you could just, equally spend as much energy, or we should probably spend as much energy on our relationships as we do on the businesses, and bringing those things to the table with that, and having those, like you said, monthly accountabilities with your partners to shed those lights. And I love the way you frame that. I'm curious to see how many people listening to this right now actually do something similar to that with their partners, as opposed to, kind of not speaking about those things. There's a big difference.
Oh, it's huge. It's like it is uncomfortable. That's the other thing too. Like that's part of where I recognize some people when I've given that insight before, it can be quite jarring. They're like, I don't know if I'm available to receive that feedback from my partner. So that's also where learning to create safety in the way that you communicate with each other is like a whole other kettle of fish. But being able to recognize that when we have discomfort, it's an opportunity to lean in. It's an opportunity to learn about ourselves, about the person that we're with. It's not something that we should be avoiding. It's something that we get to grow through.
Jess, I love that. I think on that note, let's wrap up. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for making the time to speak with me today. You just deliver on value so incredibly well, in my opinion. However, I would just like to ask you one thing about your project, Artemisia Mystery School. How this name a little confusing to me, and what you do. Share a little bit of the magic around that for us, because I'm sure there's going to be some people that would love to work with an incredible human like you.
Thanks, Jay. So Artemisia is basically specializes in education for facilitators and practitioners.
Mm.
So what kind of education, you might ask? It's for people that want to create profound transformation with the people they work with. So our signature modality is shamanic shadow work. So it teaches you the intuitive intelligence, the cognitive intelligence, and the somatic intelligence to be able to create profound shifts with your clients at a rate that is pretty much unparalleled in any other transformation space that I've seen. Because when you're working directly with someone's energy field, you're getting a direct insight into what's playing out for them unconsciously. So self-sabotage patterns, people hold that in the energy field. So the work that we do in Artemisia is giving you the tools so you can shift that and help people change their lives in a way that sticks.
Wow. I've booked 4 sessions with you coming up soon, so I'm super excited to dive deep on that with you and be held in your incredible energy for all that comes up. So, everyone, Jessica, and you can get her on social media. What's the best way to get in touch with you, Jess?
Best place to find me is probably Instagram. So the Jessica N, with Jessica with a C and a K.
Jessica with a C and a K. Can you just spell that for us?
So Jessica.
Beautiful. Love it. I ask that because it gets me every time. But it makes you unique in your beautiful magic too, and standing out. So love it. Jessica, thank you again for your time. We will see you again, I'm sure, on the Music Spirit and Accountability podcast in the very near future.
Thanks so much for having me, Joe.